Thank you, everyone, joining me on this first Sunday in the autumn from this Tibetan Buddhist Society of Canberra, which we usually screen this Karma Body meditation, which we've been doing for over 30 years. And then since the pandemic, we've been doing the online, the teachings. So thank you for joining me. I have two questions from previous ones, which I haven't answered, so I will briefly answer those, and then I will go over the questions that you have put on. Thank you. The first question I had in one of those things was, what is equanimity? And so equanimity, when we look at generally, it is one of the four immeasurables out of the four immeasurables. It's the fourth and last one, so it is actually considered to be hardest of all. That's why it's put the last. The word equanimity suggests that we need to have balance. And so the balance in this case, equanimity, that is very close to Buddhist teaching, is a middle way. So when we talk about equanimity, therefore you are able to combine the compassion and wisdom together. When you have compassion and wisdom together, then you have compassion towards even people you are very near and dear and close to you. Of course, you're very close to them, but if you become very, very attached to them and their well-being and and so on, you get so worried and anxious because you're so attached to your only who and whoever they are. So it almost cripples your usefulness to benefit them, to love them or give them when you're too attached, because you're possessive, you're very controlling, you want to have to do with them only your way, and you can actually create more of a nuisance even to them. So therefore, the equanimity towards loved ones is you need to develop not so much sort of decrease your compassion and generosity, but decrease your stupidity in being so fixed and being so for controlling. So that would be how to bring a bit of balance between your giving and controlling. If you give, you don't have to control. You give, you just let go. That's equanimity. But people tend to give and love, but then try to control and possess. So that's not equanimity. So therefore, it says that may all beings abide in equanimity, away from too much attachment, even to the near and dear. Another equanimity with the object that are not sort of pleasant object of our mind, but when we have some kind of when we don't get on with something or someone, and we shouldn't be too negative, too critical to them. All the perceived problems that we have are not entirely there. They're partly your own projection. So being able to think like that is really, really equanimity. Otherwise, you become so vindictive and so righteous and how wrong they are. You hold this ill will for days and days, some people even months. If you're a practitioner, your practice that you do every 4 hours or so, try to get rid of those things. So you don't pray to have equanimity, you practice equanimity. You realize what you have to change. And so drop that kind of enmity and aversion to someone or something, because they're mainly your own neurosis they're manifesting. It's not them. It's your own thought about them. Being able to think like that, you become a little bit, you therefore balance, you therefore become, do not waste your time in this aggression that you have towards them, but you do equanimity. Equanimity is somewhat trying to adopt a kind of a non-aligned kind of position. So the equanimous state is correspond to the practice of what we call practice of developing equanimity. It can balance your air element, because air element otherwise can cause a lot of problem in your mind. Cause a lot of people who have anger, who have really vindictiveness, resentment towards somebody, then that can cause a lot of psychophysical imbalance, and like destructive emotions are cultivated because you lack equanimity. So equanimity is in relation to relationships. Equanimity in relation to what your own life, like work balance, whether you do too much theory and not practice, or whether you do so much without understanding why they are, or do too much work for you to your school or to your group or something, and totally ignore some other areas of life. That kind of lack of balance also requires equanimity. So equanimity is a good way to balance your time, say how much time you give to others that are really, really useful, but you're spending a lot of time without being really useful, neither for yourself or others, and then you resent all the time you gave. That's a lack of balance. Got a lot of people like that. They want all or nothing. That's not equanimity. That's not balance. So you got to balance how much you do and how much you can, and don't put all your eggs in one basket. And if possible, evenly in the number of baskets you have. You got to see how many baskets you have, I suppose. So that's the question about equanimity. And then another question somebody asked me was probably prompted by one course I'm going to run later on, is what is the emotional literacy. I'm not going to talk a lot about it today, but emotional literacy is basically a new concept. I think people talk about emotional intelligence and so on, but actually it's very much like a cognitive mind who understands his or her own feelings. Why they get mad, sad, and glad, for instance. These are three different kind of emotions. They become mad and sad and glad. Why do, for instance, why these three words rhyme, and what are the difference? When you do feel mad, do you know you're getting mad? You know that you're so mad, what you say or will not go very well. People who, when they're mad, they don't know they're mad, for instance. So that's, I call it emotional illiteracy. If they become cognizant of their own emotions, such as becoming mad or angry at something, and when they become cognizant, they say, "Look, it can alert themselves that this is destructive emotion, this is negative, deluded emotion. Now, if you let this to fester in you and you act on it, it will be destructive to your immune system, to your friendship, to your work, to your usefulness, everything." So being able to know that is what we call the emotional literacy, and then being able to mind them and cull them. So that's why I have decided to develop this new course for over for 2 weekends, which I will run one weekend later this month. So that's being promoted, and we're getting a lot of interest for that. And then we will run another emotional literacy course, level 2, later on in the year, and I'm preparing quite a lot of materials based on some of the metaphysical teaching from Abhidharma in the Buddhist traditional text, but try to create what I call the alphabet of emotional literacy, so that people learn how to rephrase what they have previously said and thought and expressed that were wrong, and how people can learn to make themselves literate about not only how to read the emotion, but also to say them and rectify and then change and things like that. So that's going to happen later on. So that's that. Now I'm going to go over your questions. Okay, here's one question about difference between the example of supplication and dedication. I get mixed up. Refuge up at the beginning and supplication at the end. So refuge. So this is good. Tilan Somo. Thank you for your question. The refuge at the very beginning we call it formally refuge, but also I take refuge in the Triple Gem. I go for refuge. The Buddha, Dharma, Sangha is also a form of supplication. Word refuge, refuge, of course, is that at the very beginnings sound like I was saying. It's renewing your refuge. Renewing your refuge is like reconnecting. If you're calling your friend or your mother every say once a fortnight or something, saying I love you, Mom. How are you? You renew your connection, aren't you? So in many ways, you're just telling them how much they mean to you. Like here, our relationship with refuge object. So refuge object, when you go for refuge, it is a form of supplication, but we don't call it supplication. But supplication is basically it's implanting a request. Tibetan word for supplication is sol and deb. Sol and deb. Sol means to request, and deb means to plant a request. So to lodge an application, if you like, lodge an application. So for instance, in the refuge, I take refuge, the Buddha, I take refuge, Dharma. That's more like actively saying, I am going for refuge. I'm going for refuge means I will leave the place that is not safe, the state of mind and attitude that is not safe, say towards someone or towards something. You recognize that, and then I wanted to leave that behind and take steps to go to meet and greet and embrace the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, so that I no longer are carrying that burden of unsafe thoughts, ill will, resentment, anger, doubt, so on. So therefore, when we take refuge, it's more like actively saying, I'm going to do it. But still, you are doing that in the presence of a refuge object. Whereas the supplication, supplication at the end of the refuge, please bless my mind stream. So you're asking them to bless your mind stream. So that is actually submitting a request. Please bless my mind stream. So of course in Buddhism, it is actually you are really telling yourself to change your mind. If the Buddhas don't always change your mind, if there's okay, I'll change your mind. It's not like that. When we make the supplication, but actually we are just renewing our vow to change our mind, take the step to bless our mind stream so that we don't think negative thoughts about them. Please bless my mind stream. Now the dedication is ngowa. The supplication we usually call the prayer and dedication. The difference between prayer and dedication. Prayer in Tibetan called mullam, and dedication is called ngowa. So dedication is necessarily dedication is necessarily done at the end of things. So you did something, and then you make a dedication for the sake of whatever it is. So you're sharing the merit, saying that by building this school, may this school attract a lot of young students and will produce many scholars and many learned people from this. And so you're dedicating that. So that will be like after you build a school, and then you do the dedication. Whereas prayer is where at the very beginning you wish you can build a school. You're praying that you will get all the resources, help and friends and funds and land and so on to be able to build a school for just a simple example. So first is prayer. So you could be supplicating the Triple Gem to fulfill my wishes. One of your wishes might be being able to build a school, which is fairly important task. I mean, attaining enlightenment for the benefit of others might be a supplication as well. But you might do a lot of supplication, but you plant a lot of rice, but the rice isn't growing, because you're planting in the wrong field or wrong season. So that's why whereas the dedication is you have done all the things, then instead of getting attached to what you did, like end of the teaching, we always dedicate, yeah? So end of the supplication, you can dedicate the merits. Even after you do the refuge and supplication at the very beginning, and then did all the other practices and maybe a couple of hours session, that at the end you dedicate. Dedication in Tibetan means ngowa. Ngowa literally means to roast. Otherwise, if you don't dedicate the merit, then it's still raw. still remains raw. But it's inedible basically. But if you dedicate it, when you roast it, that means it multiplies the benefits. So the dedication is multiplication of your virtues by selflessly sharing it to everyone. So in our today's sort of context, please share this to your friends. Share your Facebook or use YouTube, and share and subscribe. So that means like a dedication, because you like it, you want others to listen to it as well. So that's that. That's hopefully that's answered your question, and then. Okay, another question is difference between pratya and gianna. The firstly, it's the pratya itself really means share up, which is the sixth of the sixth perfection, pratya paramita. The gianna, when they just divide those they put into 10 paramitas, then they put the 10th as a gianna paramita. So it's more like a subtle version. But when they talk about gianna paramita, they talk about more like a primordial wisdom that you realize. With pratya paramita is that you actually do the practices of the first five paramitas and then meditate on the emptiness of perfection of wisdom. Means that you meditate on the lack of inherent existence of, for instance, generosity you practice. You might practice a lot of generosity, which most people do. But if their practice of generosity lacks prajna, which means wisdom, then it is not dana paramita. Dana is generosity. The generosity has to have paramita. Paramita is the prajna paramita. You have to have wisdom. What is the wisdom is, instead of thinking, I helped him, I did all this to him, and then seeking recognition, seeking some kind of reward from them, and otherwise resenting that you gave, that is that's the generosity, but not generosity, perfection of generosity. So in order to make it perfect, you meditate on the thing, I gave all of that, but everything I gave is totally empty of inherent existence. If someone didn't have the humility to receive my gift, my giving is not inherently real. So my giving is made real only when somebody assist me by being the recipient of it. So therefore, my giving is just as giving itself not inherently existing, nor is the object inherently existing, nor is the thing that you gave also inherently exists. All by interpenetration of these three together, therefore the generosity is positive practice. So not getting attached to the object, nor the thing you did, nor the self that who did the generosity as truly existing, not having any attachment to that is the prajna paramita. So prajna paramita in relation to generosity, that's the dana paramita. So that which makes paramita is the prajna that you apply with the dana or with others. Of course, if you have prajna paramita, with practicing with the dana paramita, when you practice the perfection of generosity, then this wisdom also can intersect the other five paramitas as well, like shila paramita also, because you did the practice of generosity properly and according to the right discipline and so on. Whereas the gianna paramita, which is gianna paramita is primordial wisdom. I don't think there is a lot of difference in terms of what these two are. One is probably more subtle. The gianna paramita is more subtle. It's called primordial wisdom. I suppose we may have the primordial wisdom, but only by instigating, by practicing dana, then we learn to practice prajna. And when we practice prajna, and then we realize we actually should have been able to do that all along right from beginning, because we should have the primordial wisdom, but our karma and afflictions have hindered us from accessing the prajna. So the prajna paramita has enabled us to actually mind the very gianna paramita, that is indwelling nature of our own mind. So that's probably will do as the answer. Thank you. Yeah, prajna is the wisdom, and jnana is the primordial wisdom. But it is not so much a big difference. Big difference. Okay. Did any question? Yeah, so another thing that I remember that somebody asked question is about the concept of what we call the good in the beginning, good in the middle, and good in the end. What we call in Tibetan Tampasum, the three sacred things. And then they think that. And so the relationship between these three goodnesses and the concept of what we call preparation, the actual practice, and the conclusion. In many of the Buddhist texts, Tibetan Buddhist texts anyway, when you give teaching or whatever, everything has these three: preparation, main thing, and conclusion. So from that point of sometimes people casually say that three good in the beginning, good in the middle, good in the beginning is the motivation, altruistic motivation. Good in the middle is what you do. So that's like a preparation. Good in the beginning is doing all the necessary preparation, whatever, physical or whatever. Most importantly, right intention. Good in the middle is whatever you have to do. Pay your full attention to maintain that good intention, and then do whatever you have to do without losing the contents of the intention that you convene at the beginning. Because intention is usually there at the very beginning, but to be able to maintain that intention throughout the whole activities as the main content of the activities, that would be the good in the middle. Good in the middle. So the preparation, the actuality, and then conclusion is, and while with that very, very selfless kind of altruistic motivation with which you began, and then you maintain the activities with that content and with the actual activities that is the body of the activity for the purpose what we do, because you can't just have a mere intent. The intent has to be applied. So in the bodhicitic teaching, they call the wishing enlightenment, wishing thought, and doing thought. So wishing has to be translated into doing. So the main thing that you do in the middle is actually doing the thing that you put great intention with, So therefore, when the intent and the activities are very, very concordant complementary to each other, and then you have basically that which keeps your attention going is to guard that attention of the good intention from the very beginning of the intention, and even while you're doing that. And then conclusion is before you get really exhausted and tired, and you then dedicate the merit, then you generate you share the merit for the benefit of all others. So that will be the meaning of the simple way of talking about good in the beginning, good in the middle, good in the end. But technically speaking, textually speaking, this good in the beginning, good in the middle, good in the end is not these three. Technically, good in the beginning is listening to the Dharma. Good in the middle is contemplating on the meaning of what you have studied. Good in the end is doing meditation on the what you heard and what you contemplated, and then what you really think you believe and you studied. So therefore, first it's good in the beginning. You have to hear the teachings of the Dharma. You have to hear the teachings of the Dharma, because most people never get to hear the Dharma teachings. And when you really have heard, so these days, because maybe read, if you read a good Dharma book, that's what it started. They say a lot of people, they read a good Dharma book and that started. So good in the beginning could be reading a good Dharma book, and maybe then follow up listening and studying and reading and doing all of that. So that will be the good in the beginning, is like studying and learning and understanding the teachings. And the good in the middle is there, whereby you are actually contemplating. You're making the Dharma and the Buddha's teaching as your own thought, because we previously had kind of really rusty thoughts, Our attitudes were really very limited. But as soon as the good in the beginning has sunk in our mind, then our thinking has completely sort of changed. As a result of that, we no longer see the suffering is caused by people or things, Because prior to having the good in the beginning, hearing the Dharma, we used to think like that. People do years of 20 years study, finish law degree, and their job, they put on time, go to get a job, that's just to prove someone wrong, always pointing finger at others. This is how this materialistic society. People really don't hear the Dharma very well. They thought Dharma, they understood Dharma, but they still keep wagging their crooked finger to pointing somebody else as the problem. Means they never heard the Dharma. Yes, they may have heard what the Four Noble Truths are, list of 4 things intellectually, academically, but they haven't had the good in the middle. They haven't made the Dharma as the thought. They don't believe in that. They just intellectually know the Dharma. That's not good in the beginning. That's just dry academia. Dry, we call it, that's the flower of words, It's not, you're just flattery to yourself. You can speak nice words of Dharma, but you actually have not made them as your thought, then you believe. If you did, then that's the good in the middle. Pardogyava, the good in the middle is, it has made your thought thoughtful. Previously, your thought were all thoughtless. All your thought was incoherent, destructive, wrong, incomplete, mistaken. Now, when you have really heard the Dharma, it hurts your pride, hurts your nest of problems, and therefore it really makes you feel how badly hurt we are due to our own lack of knowledge. Dharma is education. Dharma is the highest education. The highest education, we call higher training of the discipline, higher training of meditation, higher training of meditation, higher training of metaphysics, Wisdom, we call it, yeah. So if you have this higher, if you have heard the Dharma, then it will give you discipline that you didn't have. Previously, your discipline was always try to prove someone wrong. This is what this materialistic society, in the West, in the modern West, the highest paid people are lawyers, but their job is always to point finger at somebody else. Even though you saw them do wrong, you still try to find a legal loophole to defend him. That kind of work is not good in the beginning, neither good in the middle, let alone good in the end. It's suffering in the beginning, suffering in the middle, suffering in the end. It looks like a nice because you're highly paid, but your money doesn't bring happiness. You earn a lot of money. Your job is very stressful. It's very vindictive. It's a causing distraction to the little society that we try to keep together. So this kind of materialistic society don't have good in the beginning. Most of the education or thing they study are just to hand to mouth, just to bring food in the mouth, roof over the head, clothes in the back, and that's not education. That's just, even animals can find a nest to hide themselves from rain and cold and feed themselves. So we as human beings have to resort to this higher education. This higher education, we're not talking about secondary education, we're talking Dharma education. Dharma education is the education that Buddha referred to, adhishiksha. Adhishiksha means higher knowledge that which one who can read his own mind and its thoughts, its feelings, its emotions, and learn to modify them, change them, see their destructiveness, and just exercise restraint to them. And one who have heard the Dharma knows how to do that. That's good in the beginning. And how the good in the middle is then they change that. They believe in the Dharma totally. Some people believe for a little while and then again they falls back, pointing finger at somebody. They're really angry. They're really sort of, painting their heart as someone wronged your life and someone destroyed your life or someone whatever. And they have not really heard the Dharma at all. Even if they did, it's just superficial, conceptual. They haven't really made the Dharma and their belief. If they have made the Dharma good in the middle, that means they have contemplating. They have to contemplate. They have to make the Dharma as their thought. They got to believe in the Dharma, that all sufferings are not caused by others. All sufferings are caused by karma and affliction of oneself, but all sufferings are prevalent and impermanent. Think like that. And then make them impermanent. See, that's the good in the middle. Then good at the end is that you now meditate. You now can sit half an hour or 1 hour or whatever, reflecting. That's how true the Dharma is. You believe in the trueness of Dharma, and then try to meditate. Try to pay attention to cognize your own mind, how itself creates these situations. So when you are able to witness the workings of your own psychology, your own mind, then you actually have the good in the the more you read and study the Dharma, the better it improves your attitude. When you change your attitude, your language, your behavior about other people's karma and wrongdoings will not be one who is impatient, intolerant, and very judgmental and like that. You'll be very kind and compassionate to the frail sentient beings who haven't heard the Dharma. Majority haven't heard the Dharma. They have 2 degrees, they have masters, they have PhD, they have 6-digit income, but they're so miserable inside them because they have never heard the Dharma. And so that's why you develop loving kindness and compassion to those people who look well and look so good. That streets are paved very well, have very nicely mowed gardens. All the walls are even, all the things are shining. They got all those things, but deep down they're so restless, resorting to alcohol and drug and always wanting, looking for love, but they never find because they're so possessive, so selfish. Love is not seeking someone else's kindness to you. Loving kindness, Buddhism is trying to practice other way around. Try to practice tenderness to others by oneself. One who's seeking tenderness from others is not called loving kindness. It's seeking trouble because you're greedy. You're practicing greediness. Seeking tenderness and love and generosity from others is greed, is desire, it's not love. So when you have heard the Dharma, the good in the beginning, when you have heard the Dharma, you distinguish this. Seeking someone else's love and tenderness, generous for oneself, is not going to get you love. You're drinking salty water. The more you get, the more thirsty you'll become. That's greed. That's desire. That's craving. Greed, desire, craving are afflictions. Generosity, tenderness, kindness, these are loving kindness. So if you are seeking and wanting someone else's love and respect and kindness and forgiveness to yourself, and you are at least doing any of that, that's what makes a person in a human body hungry ghost. So it's important to know the difference between, for instance, one who have really heard the Dharma. One who really heard the Dharma become very deep thinker, not looking for shallow things, not some temporary, what's there for me type of thing. That's when we were totally ignorant. That's when we were so illiterate. We didn't know how to read. We used to think like that. When you become dharmically educated, you basically become seer. You begin to see the Four Noble Truths. The truths are not easy to accept because they're very bitter truth. The truths are bitter. Truths are not sweet. Truths are not sweet. Buddha tells the truth. And so people don't want to hear the truth. Because and you go to some court or litigation, you think you get the truth? No. You think victory is sweet or something. See how long it will last as a sweet. It wouldn't last very long. So it's the truth of the Dharma is the truth of suffering. That suffering that we don't want is nature of existence. So if you really don't want suffering, forget about coming back next time in this existence. This time is a bit too late. So therefore one has to mop up the past causes that has brought these present situations on ourselves. Nobody brought us these situations ourselves. If you have heard the truth of the Dharma, first truth of suffering, this truth of suffering and problem that you have is nobody brought that delivered to your doorstep. It is brought by your own unconscious acts in the past. When you think like that, what about the amazing truth is then you stop blaming others. Then you do not try to point fingers at others. And that's really, that is the good in the beginning. When you heard the Dharma next time, and then because you are exposed to so many people who do just that, then you develop compassion to them. Oh, these sentient beings who don't know anything, so they are emaciated by lack of this kind of spiritual wisdom, because they lack this truth, which are bitter. Its truth is bitter at the beginning when you don't accept it, but once you see the truth, which is becoming a seer of the truth, it ennobles you. That's the noble truth of suffering. For most people, it's a bitter truth of suffering. But to whom it's a noble? One who accepts that, one who embraces that as a truth, and then do not reject that, do not deny that. For them, then they can see the truth. Then they become seer of the truth. Seer is the noble. So those who see the truth of the suffering the Buddha taught are the Aryas. Actually, the Arhat is the noble disciple of the Buddha who heard the Buddha, who can see the truth of the Buddha. So if you realize the first noble truth, I'm pretty sure it will change your pace. Where you walk will change. Where you look at it, talk about things. You will hardly complain about other people did this to me. One person who have heard the Dharma, heard the first truth and have realized the truth, will not speak of what other people did to him. That's one person who has refuge. Who actually have refuge. His refuge means he is safe from pose causing to him themselves more harm by blaming others. So that's why he has actually seen the truth. He's ennobled by the first truth. Why? Because they've heard the Dharma. One who have heard the Dharma, is now have got the knowledge, have got the good, have the goodness. He had hit the jackpot, basically. Yeah, he has won. He has become victorious over his inner enemy. His neurosis, his defilements, his ignorance is now exposed very clearly by the truth of the Dharma. So the truth of Dharma. And then, of course, when the truth of Dharma has exposed the truth, of course you know what to reject. That's the truth of suffering. True origin of suffering is your own selfishness, your greed and hatred and anger and so on. You can tell that, that's much more important to get rid of than what alleged people or other events or things like that. You no longer think like that. Why? That's because you have good in the beginning from listening and understanding Dharma, and then your thought has changed. Your thought has changed. You wouldn't even speak the way you used to speak. You wouldn't even think the way you used to speak. And never mind that. And of course your behavior will change. You still have some karma of the past karma still. They will ripen on you, but you are much more accepting of them because you're not rejecting sufferings, which is the bitter. When you accept the suffering, it may be difficult at the beginning, but it is sweet. When you accept the suffering is exhausted. Suffering do not truly exist. It just needs to be uncaused by the person who don't have the skill. Now is upskill. That's why they got to go take the good first step, good in the beginning. And when they take the good step to listen and study the Dharma, and study Dharma doesn't mean the list of 5, list of 6, all these things. You have to know what it actually means to understand Dharma. When you understand the Dharma, when you heard it, then it will change your mind. You no longer talk about poor me. People think they are Buddhist or they are ordained or something for 20, 30 years, but still they just poor me all the time. Always complaining about somebody else. See, they never studied Dharma. They never heard the Dharma. They just blindly believe in something as a Buddha will relieve their sufferings or like that. I said, Buddha never does. Buddha himself, he says, my followers do not believe in washing their wrongdoing by water. Nor does he transfer his realization onto others. Buddhas cannot transfer his realization. Buddhas cannot give you blessings. He can. So Buddhas cannot give you blessings. If he did, then why all the suffering still there? If Buddha was busy giving blessings till now, why are all the suffering there? But he teaches people. He makes them by teaching to see that for themselves. It's like in the modern education. Your teacher, your lecturer does not give you make you pass examination. He will teach you, he will show you, and you have to do the research, and you have to write a good assignment, and then that'll get the mark. You don't supplicate to your lecturer and try to ask him to pass you. You're cheating. He cannot pass you. He cannot pass you. You have to perform firstly attendance of the class, all the necessary requirement, all the class and academic credential. If you have put them all together, then that will make you to pass your examination. Not the lecturer. No matter how close, how admire, how much you like him, it's not going to do. So no matter how many times you call your lecturer, he's not going to pass you. You got to actually do it. Like that, Buddha said himself that he as followers of this sage do not believe in washing sins by a water, which many people do, but many people do. And some of the Buddhist rituals still sort of use the kind of ritual of sprinkling water and so on. But don't believe that water is going to fall over. Water is going to kind of sort of wash your sins. I mean, it doesn't, so nor does he can, but he's showing the teachings. So to show the teaching, we have to be heeding to the teachings and hear them very, very clearly, and then know what is it that we should pay our attention to, and then we got to see it. So when we become the seer of the pointing that the Buddha did, amazing, isn't it? Then you have heard the teaching. When you have got it, what they call I got it. When you got it, then you don't just got it intellectually. Then try to get it emotionally, and intellectually, and behaviorally. So try to understand and make yourself believe in that, and no longer you believe that you are a victim of somebody else's action. You no longer think like that anymore. You are experiencing the result of whatever karma you have created in the past, maybe 10 years ago, or the previous life, or whatever it is. You don't have to doubt. It is there. And the question is not about how to avoid them, how to outsmart them, how to come up with a remedy. That can overcome these problems. That's when you practice the path. So that's why the good in the middle is you practice the path. Good in the practice is you believe in the teachings and you accept the negative difficulties, even your positive things. You don't waste them, and so you believe in that. So whatever certain blessings you have in the present life situation, you always rejoice them, you always thank them, make sure they are not wasted away. And whatever difficulties your life's going through, you do not reject and denounce and repudiate and blame somebody else. That's when you have the good in the middle. Then you're really practicing good in the middle, because you're actually thinking thoughtfully according to Dharma. Changes you so much. It gives you so much power to change your thought, I mean, everybody can change your tire, or somebody can change even your hair, or your nail, but nobody can change your mind, So you have to change your mind by your own. If you really are very, very sort of weak, people can change your mind. They can say something, you become poisoned, and that's it. You have lost to their belief, and some people become so naive and they just follow some deluded friend's story, and then you believed it, and then you become as crook as they are. Why? Because you don't have a mind of your own. But when you have got a mind of your own, then don't let it be so rigid and so stiff. Change your mind. Buddha said, do not do any bad. Do all that is good. Purify your mind. This is my teaching. So, if you can change your mind, then you have heard. Then you got the good in the middle. Good in the middle is that you are actually contemplating. You're actually making the teaching as your thought. Like bodhicitta, you believe in bodhicitta. You heard, you were inspired, and then you just don't think like that. But always try to witness whether you're cultivating bodhicitta, or whether you have the right intention or selfless intention or not. And when you don't, which is quite possible, then you try to restrain that and try to replace that with the altruistic motivation. That is the contemplation. That's thinking good in the middle. And then, because it doesn't happen so naturally, that's why you have to deliberately go and do the meditation on how to practice bodhicitta. So the good in the end is you actually take away, retreat from everyone and everything, and then just spend quality time, try to develop the meditation on what you heard in the good in the beginning, what you contemplated the meaning good and then what really you want to meditate. Try to do a full bodhicitta retreat. At least couple of months. Bodhicitta is so important. Even a couple of months wouldn't be long enough. But as long as you develop what's like to do full quality, what warrants a good attention meditation on bodhicitta. Even say 20 minutes, you recite bodhicitta, you focus on the bodhicitta meditation, and try to, just as you heard and just you contemplate, you believe, now you really meditate on that. Whatever form of practice of bodhicitta meditation it is, you try to do that. So those are what I mean by good in the beginning. The study, contemplation, and meditation. Good in the beginning, good in the middle, good in the end. That's more like more like textually speaking, according to Buddhist texts. But when we talk good in the people doing the right intention before what they do, and then do the thing itself very well in the middle, and then dedicate at the end. Of course, ability to do those three things probably would come from the ability to listen and understand and know the Dharma as very well. So that's why it is important to to understand the relationship between study, thinking, and meditating. Study, thinking, and meditating. And so when you might be reading a book or when you're listening to the teachings, and that's called study. That's you're just comparing notes with your mind. And then as a result of that, then there have been few points so raised by the teaching that you really wanted to challenge your thinking, and say make them too personal. So some situation in life you realize, you have been always blaming somebody or looking at something else and not doing ourselves. So then when you have heard that, then now you try to change your thinking, and when you're able to bring some kind of new emotional tone and change in your way of thinking about that event and even your attitude towards yourself or someone else, you no longer have those fixed and negative and a very contradicting attitude about things and then or whatever. As a result, you feel so uplifted. I'm glad that I'm empowered. There's knowledge empowers. Knowledge is very empowering. When you know how to cross a difficult situation or whatever, it's good knowing how to. Like if you can change your problem of your mental puzzle, your emotional puzzle, and if you know how to undo it and get rid of it, it's really empowering. You know how to deal with your emotions without letting them overwhelm you or get drowned in them, but you know how to handle your. Why? That's good in the middle, because you're able to think. Dharma. When you're listening to the teaching or when you do formal practice, you realize, I don't know this way I have to do this and so on. But then all of a sudden in life situation, somehow you're able to change things that you never thought were possible. And that's where the people then are good in the middle, they say. Because of your thinking, you no longer have this enmity or ill will or anger or same degree of greed and self-centeredness anymore. It's like something has transformed in you. And you feel light and you don't feel tense and dense and heavy anymore. It's like some kind of a spring cleaning has happened. It's like that. Good in the middle, they call it. I mean, when you take a shower or when you wash something or when you clean something, you feel good, isn't it? Dharma is the best inner wash that is there for oneself to resort to. And so if you meditate on that, then that's why you become more dedicated into your discipline of doing the meditations, meaning pay attention, doing the formal prayers or chanting or meditating or sitting quiet or doing the sadhana or mantra or whatever. You do it not just for yourself, you do it not just for now, you do it not just because you want to feel physically comfortable. Some people always worried about physical, it's not too long. That's not. Even if the body, you never can keep it well and strong, and the body is incrementally getting weaker and weaker. It is on its way out. So you don't get attached to the corporal body, and you don't get taken up by the worries of the body. You're able to think for mind, for future, and for the benefit of others. You're not thinking of the body and me and now. That kind of short-sightedness, gone. Why? Because you have been exposed to this study of Dharma and contemplation and meditation has made everything good. You no longer have to waste your time and energy directed towards those things. So with this, we will conclude this talk. I can't see any question here, any new question here. Thank you very much for everybody joining us. Thank you. I'll do the dedication of merits because we were talking about dedication merit means sharing this. Now, if you can share this on the Facebook as well as on YouTube, that will be like a practical dedication of merits. Oh, So with this, I do the dedication of merits. Oh, by the merit over the deva menzenge omniscient, may I liberate a bit from the ocean of Buddhist here in the Mahayana teaching, whatever merit I have accrued, may hope it becomes the levels to hold the Mahayana teaching, courage, manjushri nyavodi, as a mantra de life, following our example, I shall dedicate the merit, may the excellent body jida tebe verena yadanza, where it has been angry freely without generation. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Stay safe.